Okay, so we're going to change the order on the clinical trials because we have one person that has to leave early, so we're moving it around a little bit. Okay, so we're going to hear from the clinical trials from our stabilizers first. So first, we're going to hear from Jocelyn from Eidos about clinical trials for the acoramidis AG10. Jocelyn? And now we're going to hear from Adam for Pfizer on clinical trials. Are there any clinical trials going on for Pfizer?
All right. Thanks, Muriel. Let me just share my screen. Are you seeing this?
Yep.
Okay, great. So this should be quick. So, you know, as many of you know, in 2019, tafamidis was approved by the FDA based on the 28 completion and readout of our phase 3 ATTR-ACT clinical trial. And today we fund several different types of independent investigator-sponsored research studies across the world to continue to advance the science of ATTR-CM. But we now also have 2 additional multi-center global epidemiologic studies that I'm able to share. And these aim to better understand the prevalence of ATTR-CM in at-risk populations. The first one on the left, you'll see, is called the TTR-ACT or TTRac study. And it's actively enrolling a target of 1,500 participants with thickened heart walls of unknown etiology. And the second is on the right. We'll begin enrolling this month a target of 2,000 patients with heart failure with preserved ejection fraction. And in both studies, participants will be screened with non-invasive scintigraphy, either PYP scanning in the US or DPD or HMDP in Europe, and appropriate diagnostic procedures otherwise. And so, you know, with these 2 studies, we really do hope that they'll aid in our global understanding of disease prevalence, but also how we might begin to better think about screening at-risk cohorts, since we all know that early diagnosis is imperative to the treatment of this disease. I'll turn it back to you, Muriel. Happy to take questions.
Thank you. We're going to save the questions for the end, but you know, we really appreciate that. So next we have Michael from Corino. Any clinical trial information to share, Michael?
Not at this moment. We'll definitely keep you up to date, though.
Okay, super. Thank you. Okay, and then we have Steve from Alnylam filling in for Akshay. Okay, now next we will hear from Gustavo from Ionis.
Okay, Meryl, let me share my screen here. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. So I'm going to present very briefly to you the 2 studies. We are going to focus a little bit more on the cardio. That's the main point for this meeting today. And these 2 studies are based on the TTR-LICA, the new molecule, the molecule that we call a follow-on compound on top of inotersen that has the technology that makes this drug a much more simpler way to administer, and of course expecting not to have any of the side effects that we see sometimes in this class. So let me show you the first slide, sorry. Okay, so the NEURO-TTRansform study is this new drug from Ionis for the polyneuropathy phenotype of this disease. So this is a phase 3 clinical research study for people with polyneuropathy phenotype. So in this study, the patients will be receiving the ION 682884 that we also call AXIA TTR-L, L from LICA. And we're going to look for the usual important endpoints, FNIS+7, and the other neurological endpoints for these patients. Interestingly, in this trial, because this is a disease that has a treatment already, we don't have specifically here a placebo in this treatment. So all the patients will receive or the new drug or inotersen for a while. And then, as you can see in this schema here, after the week 35, all patients move to the new treatment until the end of the trial. So this is an open label study when you'll be randomized 6-to-1, 6 patients on the new drug, 1 patient in inotersen for the first 35 weeks only. And then everybody goes to the ION 682-884 TTR LICA until the end of the study. At the end of the study as well, you can continue a few more weeks in the study for a few more evaluations, but we believe most of the patients, if not all of patients, will go for an open label extension. So as soon as you finish the week 85, you receive drug for the next few years in the same site that you've been followed. The visits in this study are well spaced, so it doesn't need to be a big burden for the patients. And to be in this trial, you have to have ATTR polyneuropathy, of course, up to 82 years old. You have to be able to walk, to do the 6-minute walk test with or without an aid, no problem at all. And the only thing that was requested is that you should not have had any experience with the RNA therapies on Patro or inotersen before, and then you can be in this study. We have, if I'm not wrong, in the neuro group, maybe 30 sites, almost 30 sites in the United States, and maybe 20 or more sites outside the United States. Let me talk to you a little bit about the CARDIO-TTRansform. That's a little bit more focused for this meeting now. So it's the same molecule, the same mode of administration subcutaneously once a month, no pain, no redness, no site reactions on the injection site. And here we have a study that is a placebo control, as the other studies that have been presented by the colleagues here as well are placebo control. We are not having so far any head-to-head trial, for example, against the tafamidis that's already in the market or against any other drugs in research so far. Everybody's going versus placebo. We are conducting this trial all around the world, United States, Europe, Canada, South America, Australia, Japan, and we are with currently 110 sites, and in United States, at least 50 sites will be opening. We had already 40 sites open in United States, most of them already recruiting, so we're really going for a large trial. We're going to enroll 750 patients in this trial, which is going to be the largest trial in amyloidosis so far. In this trial, the patients will receive or the new drug or subcutaneous placebo, matching placebo. It's a placebo controlled trial. And one thing that's interesting in our trial, and I cited that before, we know that there's a drug, not in all countries, but in most of the countries, that saves lives, and it's tafamidis. It's already proved, it's safe, it's tolerable, it's oral, it's a great drug. Patients, if they have access, they need to be taking that drug. This is part of a good treatment nowadays. So our trial accepts the patients receiving tafamidis at any time. We do not prevent patients to receive the best treatment that their physicians might planning to offer to them. So this is a usual treatment when the usual trial when the patients will be randomized 1-to-1 to receive the drug or the placebo. They will be on trial for 120 weeks. So you're probably gonna understand that this trial is very similar in general to the ATTRACT trial that proved the tafamidis being beneficial. That was a great trial, well designed. There's no reason for us to go much different than that. And also regulatory agencies asked us to mimic ATTRACT a little, also make it easier for them to make comparisons and to give a more clear conclusions to us. Again, at the end of the 120 weeks, these patients in this trial will be offered an open label extension. So if you are on placebo or drug, everybody goes to drug for a few more years following in the site. To participate in this trial, you have to have ATTR cardiomyopathy, the usual diagnosis following the guidelines. So most of them can be done with the PYP scan, and biopsies are enforced only in a few instances. So there's a good chance that you can be enrolled without necessarily needing a biopsy. Also, the patient should not have had experience of the RNA therapies, Tegsedi or Onpattro before. And as I was saying before, we had at least to be open 50 sites in the United States and more 70 sites, total 120 sites in Europe, Australia, Japan, and South America as well. So I think this is what I have to say about the trials from Ionis Axia, and I'll go back to you, Mario.
Thank you so much. That was really interesting. And if anyone has any questions, and they can always contact me and I can throw them your way. So we appreciate it very much. Thank you. Who do we have next on the agenda? Okay, next we have Jeff from Intellia. Jeff, any clinical trials?
Yes, so let me just share my screen here.
Oh, that's the one everyone's in an uproar on because it's only in the UK and not in the United States.
Currently. Currently, it's in 2 countries. It's in the United Kingdom and New Zealand. We are under regulatory review in a number of other countries as we speak. I did just see a question come up on the feeder of questions from someone from Germany who's participating. Guten Tag over there. If someone was willing to reach out to the site in London, there may be an aspect of potentially participating in our trial. I'd like to point out, here is the NCT number that everyone's referencing so that people can look up on clinicaltrial.gov and also see when other countries are added. This is because of the nature of editing someone's gene. It is something where it is a very deliberate design where we often have in each cohort, a cohort of 3 patients where a sentinel patient will be dosed, and after 2 weeks, we then afford enrolling and dosing several other patients in the trial as we look to reach that optimal biologic dose that we talked about, where we see greater than 95% TTR reduction maintained. So this is a 2-part study. Once we get to that optimal biologic dose, we will expand enrollment, and we will not have to go through that sentinel structure and afford enrolling people all at once, should they be deemed eligible. As I mentioned, right now, it is in polyneuropathy patients only. Our primary objectives is, of course, safety, tolerability, how the drug is metabolized and excreted, and biomarkers, as we mentioned, both prealbumin, TTR, etc. We are also looking at longer-term follow-up. So you dose once, perhaps for the rest of your life. And so this trial does go for 24 months of follow-up. It has 13 visits over 24 months, but those are strictly for obtaining some of these areas, such as a long-term look at efficacy or impact on the disease, both from a biologic perspective or a pharmacodynamic perspective, and from some of these standard neuropathy endpoints. We are also exploring other areas, such as some of the areas in cardiomyopathy, if there's cardiac involvement, and quality of life. So that's really the study design itself, unless there's any questions. But as I mentioned, we're under regulatory review in a number of other countries, so please look forward to that and expanding to where there may be access as well here in America. Okay, that's the trial I have running right now.
Okay. Thank you very much. So what's the holdup with getting this trial going in the United States?
It's not a holdup, okay? We are, as far as we are concerned, we can only enroll 1 patient at a time. And so, we are deliberate in where we have started, and then we have a path forward to other countries to open up as soon as we can.
So how many patients have you enrolled so far in the 2 centers?
The first patient was, the notification of the first patient was November 3rd of this year. So this trial has only been opened about 4 to 5 weeks, wherever we are. We're at December 5th. So we're in our 4th week. We have several other patients that are in the screening process, but again, we can only enroll 3 per cohort. So we're at, it's a very, unfortunately, it is a very regimented study design. So it will take it could take, you know, a while for us to get to an optimal biologic dose. We needed to start at a safe dose, but you know, we should be able to see a cohort progression. Our plan, and it's been publicly stated by Intellia, that we would have at least 2 looks at data next year. So Muriel, you know, certainly will, you know, involve you in when we're having release of the data, so that you can, you know, share that information.
Well, we appreciate that. Thank you so much. This was very, very interesting. We do have more Q&A here, folks. So we appreciate everyone. Stay tuned for Q&A. We're going to do it right now. And also we have a few questions left that people typed in the chat. Okay,